I feel lonely. I know the time can move so slowly, and in the distance I hear voices. Are they real or are they in my head? I'm lovesick. You got me lovesick, and I'm lovesick. You got me lovesick, and now I feel alive, feel alive, feel alive, feel alive, and now I feel alive. So many times they try to change me, and every time it drives me crazy. And all the good times we had saved me. Are they real or are they in my head? I'm lovesick. You got me lovesick, and I'm lovesick. You got me lovesick, and now I feel alive, feel alive. Feel alive, feel alive, and now I feel
Today, it's a trip to the Pocono Mountains, as today, the IndyCar Open Series and its Euro SOF gets all set to go to visit Pocono Raceway here on Velocity Online Racing. We're happy to have you with us for tonight's coverage as we get ready to go for your European SOF race to start its second half of the campaign. Hello everybody and welcome once again to tonight's festivities. I'm Justin Prince. Alongside the booth for tonight is Sébastien Kinder. We have Julien Altena as our producer, who's using cameras provided by TrackCams22.com. He also provides the onboard cameras Julien does for tonight. Just about getting set to go racing here at Pocono, as these drivers look to see who's going to be the best of the best for 85 laps, Sébastien.
Yes, exactly, and what a track. I'm so happy to be doing that track. Built for speed, diversity, and danger. A true driver's track. Formerly the third leg of the American Open Wheel Triple Crown, Pocono, Pennsylvania will offer to our drivers a bunch load of challenges, Justin, and it will be a great event. Very hot track, 41 degrees Celsius we just saw, so it's going to be very interesting.
It's going to be an interesting day for these drivers. Only 15 are in this split because they did split the splits, if you will, for today. That's why the SOF is in the 4,651 range here today. But as these drivers get all set to go, let's take a look at how they'll start today as they all make their way to the grid. Annette Clement will start on the pole today with Alexander Russell, winner in one of these splits earlier in the season, in second. Then it's row number 2 where you'll find Marco Brazil. Start next to Alan Berteau. one of the drivers who's been consistent in this time slot as of the past few months. Then you have Bruna Silva, I should say, with Andy Kirkenbauer amongst those in the top 6 here today. Throw it back an extra row to row number 4. You'll find Seb Alexander and Jacob Reed. You also have some big names back around the edge of the top 10. Jesper Dahlgren will start next to Matt Hollyball in Munster, your top 10, Sébastien.
On them in the 6th row, we have Charles Gameau alongside Alastair Khan. Butcher that name. Carl Clenworth will be starting on the 7th row alongside Leo Salvador. And alone on the 8th row will be Michael Mignac.
That's a look top to bottom of your running order here today for this one. Now, as we prepare for this, it's again important to mention 85 laps your distance today is something the drivers will have to tackle. A pretty lengthy race for only 15 drivers, but those laps should go by pretty quickly. We're talking 40-second lap times here this evening. What do you expect when it comes to how these drivers will race and where these stints will lie?
Well, I expect like pretty much single file, pretty calm for like the first 2 stints. A reminder, around 30 lap stints, and then the final stint will be a mad dash to the end. I expect a lot of crossovers because some of these corners you can use the top lane, the bottom lane. So Justin, it will be a very good race.
Kyle Brashear is the top driver of the overall standings entering this week over Adam Blocker, Logan Edwards. Meanwhile, Jacob Reed took over the Euro SOF points lead after last week's wildness, to say the least, in the battle up at the front of the field. Ty Aquila is in the conversation too. But these drivers are just about all set to go. We're happy to have you with us here on VOR as the field revs its way through. We're underway from Pocono.
Oh boy.
Getting a little bit dicey already. Some 2 and 3 wide. But the field trying to survive the opening corner. Look at them search for grip.
Oh, I see them 3 wide coming to turn 2. That's never a good thing, Justin.
You're going to have to be smart about your movements here because it's so easy to accidentally cause a lot of trouble here over the course of the night.
Now, here's at turn 3, based on the Milwaukee mile. You can use the top lane, you can use the bottom lane here, Justin. As someone is spinning, that's Russell.
Russell having to come down. Not sure why.
He doesn't have a black flag, and the car doesn't look damaged here, Justin.
Did say something on the radio. I think he might have an issue here.
Ouch. That's brutal.
And obviously, that will take him right out of the conversation as you see some of the air battles going on. Caudamonsto staying tucked in line now as the leaders try and play around at the front. The top 2 starting to break away.
Yeah, this track has really long straights, although it's open set. So I don't know, because I'm pretty much used to Pocono being sometimes pack racing. But with these open setups, you know, optimized and not made for following each other. So we're seeing like some big gaps, but the draft will still play an effect here. I see the rear wing of Klemek. They have a wicker, so that means that they're generating more drag down the straights here, Justin. That's very interesting to see. I'm wondering if Brazil has that wicker.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing to catch up on here today because remember in real life they obviously don't race here. So you see this with Brazil. There's the difference.
So no wicker, so less downforce, less drag, more top end speed. So that will be very interesting to take into account for these 2 up the front here, Justin.
Difference on setup going to come into play here. Brazil getting passed down the straights. But right now, Anna Klemek is continuing to get some big runs back and forth here for this race lead. By the way, yeah, Kirkenbauer still keeping a range with Berteau. There's a swap again for the race leaders. Coming up to lap 5, this time by, as they continue to trade cards and cars back and forth on your pylon.
Yeah, it's kind of the thing here at Pocono. You kind of want to swap draft. You want to work with the guy with you, and sometimes to save that fuel, although we don't really need to save a bunch of fuel because it's a 2-stopper.
Exactly. That's going to be the thing about these races. We were touching upon this a little bit before today. These are the stints expected. Remember, you're talking about pit stops at around 56 to 64 for your final stop, but around 28 to 32, give or take, for the first one. Obviously, over the course of this run, you're going to have to decide what type of run you really want. We've seen last week on the road course, 1 lap difference played all the difference to decide the winner there. Hollyball, Munsto's tucking in line with the leaders still swapping. Right now, see Brazil try to hold back for second, though. Kirkenbauer trying to get a run to break up the swap drafting.
Now that would be very interesting. Now it's three-man group here. So changes, and look at this for Kirkenbauer. He went down low, whereas the two in front went a bit high, and that got him some clean air, and he got such a better lane. But now look at Brazil. He's going to have now a better run, because now he has that clean air. This is the big game here at Pocono, kind of like Fontana in a way, where you need to look for that clean air here, Justin. It's very important.
Yeah, this is to where a lot of the drivers are continually just testing around to get the clean air, if you will. A lot of adjustments going to be on that weight checker, you'd have to think here too, to make sure they're able to maximize on the speed here today with the tightness in the traffic. Brazil again taking the tunnel turn run. But right now, keep in mind, outside of Hollyball, no one's been able to really gain massive positions here early.
Yeah, that's kind of they're maybe a bit safe. You know, still a long way to go. We only lost 7. No need to over push it. So that's probably why you don't see some bigger remontada here.
Yep, you see Dahlgren amongst those we expect to be fast. One of those not really gaining any positions so far. We're staying down in the 9th position. Leaders trade the race lead again. But Dahlgren is one of those we should expect to see pretty fast here over the course of this race today.
Oh yeah, for some of those that are used to watch the WeatherTech series, this guy, he was usually the guy we're all worried about because he was so fast. So we see the 1,000th change of leaders at the front between Klemek and Brazil.
Yeah, they can. It seems like it's a perfect storm for the 9 to at least hold on to the race lead for half the track, the 4 for the other half. Eventually, though, that's going to get difficult to do because by usually the later stages, tracks with California, that got issued for tires. Hollyball trying to clear on by. He continues to be a rocket making a move.
Now, these guys, third and fourth, Hollyball and Kirkenbauer, they're more fighting than swapping draft, and that's hurting them a bit, Justin. Right now, they have 1 second. I think the draft is like 1.2, 1.3 with these cars. So, especially on the Speedway package, I mean. So, right now, they're on the edge of the draft of the leading duo.
Yeah, so it's a swap draft within a swap draft behind them of note. Silva just about knocked the wall down. So some drivers are getting almost to the point of getting too close in some of these side-by-sides. Here's the back and forth again for the race lead. As you can see, using as much speed as possible.
You can see that Wicker slowing down Klemek down the straight.
Still enough to be able to make the pass, though. That's the interesting part. Then you compare that to some of those in the pack. Alexander amongst those still in the 5th gear, in the heart of it. Then you don't need to forget about Jacob Reed. His road course speed, we talked about a lot. His oval speed, how do we describe it? Meh. Right now, he's not been able to get out himself really into the top 10 outright.
Yeah, but it is a stacked field here, Justin. So like being at the door of the top 10, I would buy that every day.
Yeah, at this point, though, I know you want to be top 10, but is there a threshold to that with the car count of, okay, there's 15 cars. What's the difference of a top 10 when there's only 5 that can't be?
Well, the difference is that there's less of the if you're in those 15 cars, the likelihood is that you're a fish in the pot of sharks out there. So having a top 10 here when you have like the Dahlgrens, the Kleinworth, the Alexanders in front, that's still a big achievement.
I agree
in my
with
opinion.
Definitely. Yes. There is one thing about a smaller split compared to a larger one, though. Not a lot of room for error if you like your iRating. Take, for example, Russell from his pit stop. I'm guessing with an 8.5 second stop, it was a normal service. I'm wondering if he did qualifying fuel, maybe, Sébastien? If that's the only that's the thing that might have happened there?
Oh, that may be it. I mean, it's rare, but it has been seen on iRacing when you're like, oh shoot, I forgot to put on the race set and you're on qualifying fuel. Yeah, if that's the case.
The point I was going to make, though, with that end here is he could lose 126 iRating if they don't get a caution flag.
That's that's the worst.
That's definitely the understatement here. I think you could say absolutely. And that's the thing about getting the setup just right. You have to get it done the proper way, as in you don't make a mistake on what setup you click into the car when you take to the grid. Hollybaugh in third is almost to the leaders with the swap draft.
Yeah, the chasing two of Hollybaugh and Kirkenbauer managed to get back onto that duo there, Justin. So now, I mean, you look at Alexander Breteau behind, these guys are also going to close in, so maybe we're going to get one big pack.
Yeah, that could get interesting here if things compress that way. And really speaking, if the field does stay suctioned together like this, does it make it more difficult, in your opinion, long run to actually establish the pace with them all so equal here right now? Well, look at Hollybaugh. He's already in the gearbox nearly.
I mean, having a bigger group, yeah, because it's more chaos. So you're less focusing on doing the perfect corners and more like, oh shoot, I gotta fight this one. So yeah, and easier to lose the pack too.
Definitely. Leaders continuing to swap on your pylon still. Hollybaugh is amongst those surging up the racetrack. All right, past lap 16 of today's action. Coverage of the IndyCar Open Series Euro SOF race is brought to you by Velocity Online Racing for the iRacing IndyCar community. Please consider supporting our fundraiser and donate on GoFundMe. Right now, you talk about the difference of the packs. The main group is about 5 cars deep. Reed and company, this pack and some of the others, 5+ seconds difference. Alexander, his pack, right now needs to find a way to close up a next couple tenths. He's the tail end of the lead group.
Yeah, so Kleinworth, if those on the tower, those are the gap to the leaders. So Kleinworth is actually a second behind Alexander behind that group. So he's in that draft. Now he's gonna make that effort.
That's the huge thing here as we currently work on a technical blip for the time being. So let's talk about this radio style. Right now, for those just tuning in, your top 5 is as follows. Brazil with the swap into the tunnel turn takes it up the inside of Reclemic. Hollybaugh riding in front of Kirkenbauer and Alexander. Then Kyle Kleinworth is trying to get himself in the lead group, is now in the show, with Jesper Dahlgren and Alan Berteau compressing. They're amongst the 7th and 8th positions, Dahlgren and Berteau are. The only drivers not in the pack include Jacob Reed, Alistair Kahn, who are 9th and 10th, 5 seconds back of the leader. Salvador and Silva, who are 11th and 12, 6 seconds behind the leader. Then Kamo Maniak, along with Russell, are your other entries. As currently the drivers work their way to the tunnel turn, we're about 10 laps or so away from expected pit stops.
Yeah, and Justin, really, this track it's a tough track for setup builders because technically you have 3 different configurations to take into account. We have turn 1, which is based on Trenton Speedway's turn 1 and 2. You have the tunnel turn 2, which is based on one of the 4 corners of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and then you have turn 3, which is based on turn 1 and 2. Or 3 and 4 of the Milwaukee Mile. So 3 very different configuration. And, for some drivers, they struggle more in 1, they struggle more in 3, or they struggle more in 2. So that makes this track very unique.
Definitely can and will. And a lot of these drivers so far have been making sure, quite simply, they stay in the conversation by the time we get to the pit stop sequence here. Right now, a majority of the field, it is worth noting, when they work their way out of turn 3, are just using the outside. Not too many people just wanting to stay rounding the bottom with this car, the way things are working so far.
Yeah, exactly.
So on that note here, as the drivers continue to zip their way on the racetrack and the single file continues on the circuit, we have 65 to go already for these competitors. 65 laps to battle it out on the circuit. Once again, here on VOR. Again, if you're enjoying Velocity Online Racing coverage, please press the like and subscribe buttons to help us in the YouTube algorithm. Currently working on the technical blip at the moment for those curious. That will be sorted in the next moments or so, as this entire field is starting to see it's getting a little bit harder in a couple cases to make the moves. Brazil up the inside in 1, slides by, puts his blue and yellow machine back up to the race lead. Klevic bounced around, nearly hit the wall, coming down into the tunnel turn, slipped by. First time we've seen the 4 make a pass by that point of the run before the tunnel turn.
Big note, Justin, the pit entry at Pocono is very tricky, so we're going to have to watch out for that. Watch out for those pit entries. The black flag is, it's kind of common here, so that will be a big question mark coming to us in like now 6 to 10 laps.
Yeah, this is getting curious. As you can see, pictures are back right in time for pit stop soon. See everyone just keeping stable with the things changing up. Of note, Kyle Clenworth is taking opportunities now to move into the top 5. He just moved to 5th, or tried to at least. Had to get back in line because Kirkenbauer got the run back.
Oh, and I was looking at the chat here, Justin. Not to 29:35. He also had a very good point where if Russell still has his qualifying set on, he also have the qualifying radiator inlet on. So that means less radiator are more closed than they should be. So that means more heating into that engine. So when you're in clean air, oh wait, that was close. When you're in the clean air, that's fine, but when you'll be in the dirty air,
Yeah, that would be an absolute issue if that is the case. It's, again, not confirmed yet with him, but it's definitely a bad spot. If you're in the Russell camp right now, after his service, he is right now still 35 seconds back of this song and dance up for the race lead. In fact, he's actually only about a quarter track ahead of everyone else at the facility here at the moment. That being said, as this continues on, right now this entire main group you can say is loosely connected for the top 8. Do you start panicking if you're 9th and 10th because you're not in that group yet? If you haven't already?
Yes. Because 3 seconds at Pocono, when you have a group like the top 7 here, yeah, you're not liking your odds.
Yeah, that's not really pretty, let's put it that way, when you're that far back in the order. And obviously, for a couple of the drivers here, they're just hoping for someone to make a mistake. And the problem is, that's hard to do when you only have 15 drivers, and you'll have a lot of upset drivers if you manage to cause an incident with 15 in the field.
I mean, let's be honest, if there's a big one, then yeah, you're not you're not having a lot of car surviving this.
Absolutely. an interesting conundrum, if you will. But hey, it's a part of the sim racing experience, if you will, when it comes to iRacing. You never know when someone will make a mistake. You just hope it's not you. Change up for the race lead again. Brazil. I'm noticing the timing of these runs is getting later and later for the 4.
I mean, Ty's wearing reminder that number 4 has a wicker, so less speed. So I mean, when Clinic is in the draft, it's fine, but when they pull out of the draft, that wicker is like a little parachute and dropping the speed. And you know, and since the title won, you don't have that great of an exit out of the 4, and that means you have to do the run later. But still, they're making the run work.
They're making it work really well, actually speaking here in this. As you see again, look at this change up possibly for second. That's Alexander trying to rip this away from the 4. Seb Alexander to second.
Oh, there we go. He's changing the dynamic. Now we know that some of these guys, they may be pitting or not. So for some of these guys, and yes, look at this. The former top 2 are pitting in the same time, Justin.
Pit stop time is open. And that means service is now underway for a lot of these drivers. When will the others go in? Will they try and go even longer if they've been saving at all? You can see already the slow crawl for Brazil and Clement. We know they were really keeping the pace high up in the race lead, making the crawl into the pit stall.
And it's a long pit lane, Justin, so any mistakes is a disaster.
Kirkenbauer just indicated on the radio pitting. So I believe, yes indeed, there he goes. 6 is in, taking service.
Also having that wicker on that rear wing.
Again, difference on how they prefer their setup right now for this racetrack here today.
I'm also seeing one Seb Alexander's car, I think.
So, in your opinion, what's better, wicker or no wicker?
That's I would say no wicker. I want that straight line speed.
And we've seen how that's helped out with Brazil here in this one so far. Holleybaugh making a pass. This is to get in front of some of the others right now. Brazil has the net race lead out of those who've taken service. Holleybaugh likely will come in this time or next time by as they continue to dance around for what is now the current race lead. Reed just pit.
And for a lot of these guys, they must be running almost on fumes now because, look at this. Nearly all pitting. Only Jesper and Clendy are still on the track.
Keeping on going, and we know Clendy usually has a trick up his sleeve in terms of strategy. The one machine in this split, again, remember, has the higher oval rating than he does the road formula rating for iRacing. Dahlgren also been amongst those not really pouncing too aggressively at all. Actually going to the outside here. He might have been saving a fair bit here. He's going again.
Yeah, and probably, Clendy is in the pit, so Dahlgren going very far into his stint. And also look at this. He has found a pretty good partner in the number 3 of Reed. Now, when you're still out there, but you also have a car in front to give you a tow, you're liking your odds.
That can definitely agree with here. And right now, much of the field already at pit. 53 or so laps to work with here in this one as we continue to turn the laps here early on here for the Indy Open Series Euro SOF race. Here's a look at those in the battle for the net race lead. Brazil and Clement again have that advantage at the head of the train. Clendy already has finished up service. Will join in the heart of it. Clendy, with the freshest tires out of anybody, will actually get some pole amongst those in the top 5. We'll lose that though as the others build the run. Oh boy! Looks like they settled in. Clendy backed off.
Yeah, the tunnel turn is such a tight turn. I think it's it is, and it's also like the less wide out of them all. So you're not liking your odds when you're in the middle of a free wide or the outside of a free wide.
Yeah, it's such a concern when you make a big mistake in this type of a race we talked about earlier on. And well, a lot of these drivers just trying to see what happens next. But Matt Holleybaugh is about to break up the status quo. Brazil is dropping back. They're getting around traffic as Dahlgren came out of Pit Road. Holleybaugh is now the leader.
And look at this for Dahlgren. He's now with the leaders, whereas back then he was just more like chilling at the back of the lead pack. So you gotta take into account here, Justin, because what Dahlgren did, that will help him massively for the last pit stop. Now, reminder, they don't have to take a full fuel cell for some of these guys, and for Dahlgren, well, that's a shorter pit stop he'll have in the next at the end of the next stint.
Yep, and that's going to be important to watch for here with the field at least going for the tire save strategy, if you will, for their game plan, as we try and see where a lot of these drivers take their machines the rest of the way. But as this goes on, Alexander looking to build up the run, to keep up the side-by-side for his efforts. So a change in dancing partners that lead the group as we continue on here from Pocono. See Alexander looking comfortable now that he's got that clean air, it looks like, for now.
Now you have Clemic and Brazil, who have been leading the first stint, and now they're... I mean, they're still third and fourth, so maybe now they're more chilling. They want to save that fuel, as Mihai Bewal,
Yeah, a little bit dicey for a couple of the drivers there. But in your opinion, with those now in this second grouping, if you will, that are second back, how are their tires going to fare out, you think, long run, with the way this track usually works?
Well, I mean, we saw last stint, didn't we, that, the fronts were maybe a bit sliding, as also some people in the chat pointed out. So, for some of these guys that pitted later, that's good for them, because they can have that little advantage on other people. So, yeah.
It's an interesting conundrum, as we touched upon, but hey, that's what is the things when we see a part of the racing side of things. Some of the drivers, though, like Camo here, amongst those who are on an island at this point. We talked about Reed and Kahn's island. Some of these drivers back here, we're talking already 15, 16 seconds back compared to those at the front. As we continue on here, we're almost at the halfway point here for today's coverage as we continue on with this fuel run. Reminder that Velocity Online Racing delivers professional iRacing broadcast, providing an authentic race day experience. Our custom IndyCar style overlay creates a clean and immersive viewing experience, reminiscent of our professional motorsports broadcast. Streamed in 1440p, 60 FPS production with expert commentary, Velocity Online Racing gives your series the presentation it deserves. Broadcast packages start as low as €50 per hour. Contact Velocity Online Racing at gmail.com to learn more. Right now, the leaders still dancing for the top spot. Clemic and Brazil have slipped back into the heart of the field. Dahlgren has kept up the gap, actually closed up the gap along with Clendy. That was 1 second about a few laps ago. So they're starting to pounce a little bit in the edges of the top 5. That in mind, as once again the 7 drops his way up to the race lead here, it's going to get very interesting where you start to see eventually you have to set things up for the race win, Sébastien, but it almost feels like unless you're in the top 2, it's going to be difficult to get there. We've seen much of the race.
I'd say where you want to be starting that final stint is the top 5. If you're in the top 5, you'll be in a very good position, but coming like to 10 to go or 5 to go, you want to be top 3.
Yeah, it's critical to get the track position. So what's your best way to get it outside of pit stops at this point?
So just build your runs, and we see some of these guys trying to use some of the alternative lanes. We see that turn 1, you can use both lanes. You can even use a high lane in the tunnel turn to get a better run to do a dive bomb at the inside of turn 3, or in turn 3 you can use the high lane to get a run down the front stretch. So there's many ways to calculate a dive at Pocono, but you don't want to be in a situation where Brazil was, where he tried something on Clendy and he ended up losing a position to Dahlgren.
Yeah, they're going to have to think about this a little bit here at least. Kirkenbauer amongst those, meanwhile, making some swaps on his own. Brazil dropping back to 7th all of a sudden here. And remember, those with the oldest tires here, you're starting to see that fade a bit. Race leaders still making the change right now. I think that 4 machine's been doing well saving, but we're seeing the difference with that in Brazil, remember, with the speed and the wicker.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's one maybe of the drawbacks of running no wicker is, you have less downforce. That means you're relying more on your tires to do the work. And right now for Brazil, it's kind of showing. So that's interesting. I'm actually glad because you have some of these cars, the older Indy cars, the meta was just remove all Aero and just flat out. Hello, Aero 5. But here, it's kind of refreshing to see.
Really kind of is. But hey, it's a part of what we've seen really come into play here as the laps continue to tick away late in this one. Dahlgren amongst those still searching. There's Alexander. Dahlgren saying, I wasn't helping, I was helping us out or something along those lines. So I think the 5 is trying to say on the radio, they're trying to assist people with the way they're trying to race this race to make sure everyone stays in range of the pack. Does that make sense to you?
So we don't have the full context of what happened. Probably, I don't know, Kirkenbauer, I mean, I don't know, maybe someone complaining about Dahlgren maybe being too aggressive. I don't know. But, I mean, yeah, kinda. Maybe Dahlgren wants to do swap draft with time work, or like there could be a lot of like reason of why he said that. But I mean, right now there's no need to panic right now for Dahlgren because he's 5th, as I said, top 5. That's where you kind of want to be, and he's a second behind the leader, so he's well in the draft of someone of that top 5. So.
Yeah, just little things, I guess you can say. Difference in pack. And by the way, since that comment on the radio, the 5's already built up almost a second on Kirkenbauer. So definitely some of the thought coming to play that maybe that way. That being said, swapping's kind of ended for the past lap or two, hasn't it? Seb Alexander, the Swedish driver, has been able to actually run away a little bit here by 2/10, and it's not getting closed up.
Yeah, negative. Now you wonder if now they're playing kind of the cat and mouse, and you don't want to be leading that pack because and as we say that, Justin, Anna Clemming decides, you know what, I want to lead.
Yeah, never mind on that point. But that being said, at most tracks they stop swapping by a certain point because the tires don't allow it. This has been the one race this season where the swapping's never stopped. It feels like.
Because you have bigger straights. So
right.
It allows to get those runs.
Hey, at least we're not at Talladega for an official race.
Talladega races with Indy cars. I mean, people watching the WeatherTech Online Racing broadcast channel, they know where it's at.
By the way, you may have noticed in the past couple of corners, some of these drivers are flirting with that outside wall. That run up to turn 1, double-checked. Alexander was about a paper width difference from hitting the wall with the right side tires. And right now, you have to wonder if they're almost pushing the envelope a little bit too much here now. Because you scrape the wall, your race could be toast.
Oh yeah, the dreaded floor damage where you lose 5 clicks on the straight and you lose a bit of downforce and your race is screwed.
You do not want that to happen if you want an opportunity here. But hey, if anything was to happen, drivers like Clendy will say thank you very much. Look at Clendy. The fresher tires are starting to really gain up. Last time by, he was a 10th quicker than leaders.
Look at this. Very high in free. Trying to get that momentum out of turn 3. And now with the draft, well, it's... Well, excuse me, I'm taking that 3rd place, thank you very much.
Able to take it over, and now the next question is, can he break up the swap draft? Hollyball in the satellite machine, continuing to hold on in his line. Then you have the Indy Alliance machine, continuing to swap forward every time to make it to the tunnel turn, give or take. Meanwhile, you have the 4, who's going to have one of the earlier pit stops in this sequence coming up already 21 laps into the run. And I hear just riding and watching to see if there's an opportunity. Clendy tried to take second. It didn't happen.
Interesting.
Gonna have to try this again. Up the inside. This is for second. Kyle Glenward breaks up the swap draft, and there he goes.
That's the perfect move here for Clendy.
And now he wants the lead. Kyle Clenworth looking for his first lead of the day. Has it up in front. Now let's see if that's enough to get a lead lap on the board. You can see he's trying the inside. Almost ran to the curbing. He went so low.
Oh, watch out. That curbing can be deadly, Clendy.
Can't go that low. Here comes Hollyball on the run again. And it's back to swap drafting. But Kyle Clenworth now is up here with the tires. And oh, by the way, Dahlgren is also gaining.
It's the Jaws music. Da-da, da-da, da-da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah, both the Rogue Racing machines are moving forward. And remember, Dahlgren, amongst those who's raced with big teams we've seen in the past, now working with Clendy here today. Both of them seem to be in sync on the game plan from saving earlier and now have a chance to go 1-3 if he can get around Alexander, the 5 car at least.
Another good exit for Dahlgren as he was side by side with Alexander, and that is a killer run for an IndyCar.
Yep, you see how much they lost as a result of the battle. Big amount of time lost. Clendy looking for the set back up to go for the swap again for the race lead. Not going to get it. If anything, looks a little bit content to just save a little bit. See him working in the 5th gear from the outside of the diamond line.
And now look at the run incoming.
Has to take it somewhere. He takes it inside. You can't really bump, obviously, with an Indy car. But hey, there's the run already past halfway. Closing in those pit stops we talked about in a few laps' time, so you have to find a place to go. But hey, remember, these drivers in the future, in a couple of years, Sébastien, are going to have to think about a new body that was announced today.
I'm not a big fan of the new body, let's just say that.
It looks like a Dallara.
It's a Dallara with 2022 Formula 1 wings.
Okay, so how do you feel that's going to impact the Aero design?
I don't like having those big wings covering the whole wheels. That's going to be terrible for dirty air. Rear wing, I mean, the Speedway rear wing is pretty much what we have currently with the R18. The road course rear wing, I would say probably would be similar. Although what's interesting is, I don't know, on the render it looks like the wheelbase is shorter, but one thing is certain, it is very lighter. It's lighter than the car we have right now. A bit more powerful too. So that's going to play a huge effect on how you're going to race this car.
I mean, remember, the wings are optimized for style and efficiency when it comes to the conversation. That's the words from the press release. The Super Speedway wing adds max downforce, limited drag in a sleeker package. The Aero screen is more sleeker and lighter. Now, the Aero screen was a big thing when it came to the platform for weight and heat, actually, when it first came in. There's also the introduction of a new custom axis inerrant control suspension system. Basically, essentially more spring damper tuning options, no increased cost for drivers. In other words, more setup flexibility coming in the future by 2028.
What I don't like is now the dampers is now a spec parts, and that's kind of a disappointing, I'd say.
Hey, at least you could be that one person watching along here on the broadcast that says, "Oh, I've seen the car. I have a strong feeling there is a certain person that may work in the IndyCar scene that has very fast speed. Name's slipping on me, but I know they win a ton of races here." 100 pounds lighter to be exact is the difference, by the way.
100 pounds, that's nothing to be scoffed at.
And that's all factoring in. Don't forget the power engine. 760 horsepower max is the projection for when we go racing. That's still a couple years out, obviously, but hey, it's a change to the package. I'm curious again with the wing, how it's going to look on the rear. For those who haven't seen it, essentially, it's got, how do I describe it? It almost looks like it has a hole in the middle of it.
Yeah. 10 plus horsepower more on the engines, and the engine cover, actually, you have like a little glass, a little window where you can see the engine. So that's actually a bit swell here, I'd say.
Pit stops are underway, by the way, to change the conversation from your favorite topic. Brazil came in after 29 laps. Ours, like Clement and a few others, were able to go much further here, so we are in that window on the push window timing. A couple at the back of the field still taking their pit stops. Who comes into the front of the field? Let's find out how this goes for their service coming up here in the next moment.
So very interesting by Clement deciding to save a bit of fuel, trying to go further so that you don't have to have tires that will do a longer stint and have a shorter pit stop by the end. So.
Yep, and obviously with Reed now coming in, by the way, these drivers are going to have to make sure they stay not only in touch with the lead group, but also in a position where if you want to win this race, it's pretty clear the freshest out of those towards the end may have a good chance here, especially once they activate.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's see. With Pocono in, no one else came in that time for the lead group. So we're talking a little bit more stretchy on the tank. Hollyball with the swap again. Russell, amongst those who just took service this time. 7 car, Matt Hollyball, amongst those coming in this time.
Now, one thing that we didn't talk a lot about is the hybrid system, and it will play its part here, Justin. Again, we're not on the track where you have braking, and not, I would say, maybe 1-3. Maybe you can go full lift and have the engine brake to recharge your battery, and then again, as we see Hollyball pitting. So managing that hybrid will be very important.
Extremely important. Now, let's see how these drivers fare out with this service. Clendy, Alexander, Dahlgren, Clement, and Berteau are the ones who are still on the circuit.
Now, I'd say for Clement, they have pushed that stint very far. So yeah, I think that's them pitting. Huh? Yep.
Here we go. Pit stops for a majority of the leaders. And right now, remember the target for a majority of the drivers is 9 seconds. They only need 9 seconds in the pit lane.
Also, that pit lane isn't very easy, so then again, these guys are pretty good. And no issues whatsoever when they're stopping in their boxes.
So the two teammates have worked together here to save as much fuel as possible. They're stretching, and here's the thing, lighter car, faster car. That has to be part of the mindset here, as these are the only two cars left. Oh, and they have lap traffic. That's Jacob Reed in front of the leader.
Reed, who has already pitted, done his final pit. That's actually kind of a good thing for them.
Yeah, the interesting situation now possibly here. But hey, let's see if there's a chance to use the draft to break away a little bit. It is causing a difference between the teammates on track. But Clendy says, okay, let's go in now. Dahlgren goes an extra lap. A little bit further on the run here as they go late in the action. Right now, Klemek is the first of those who have already taken a pit stop, by the way. No, Alexander is in the swap, should say. Hollybaugh's in the group. Brazil is towards the tail of it with Berteau and Kirkenbauer also within range. Clendy, 9.1 seconds on his stop.
That's a quick pit stop.
Yeah, bursting away and zipping away off the rip.
And look at this, he'll be up to speed and he'll be not far from Klemek and Alexander. Even maybe, yeah, even in front. That's the power of that shorter pit stop.
Yeah, that little bit of a pit stop speed boost is really going to be interesting for a couple of the drivers here. But there's the zip by on the run for the 4. Clendy, with fresher tires, is going to be right in the mix for the swap draft from the get-go. Dahlgren still has yet to pit.
Yeah, Dahlgren, he went far into his stint, so I wouldn't be surprised if he's doing it again. And that's, again, look at this, the number 3 of Reed is a huge help to him because he gives him a bit of a slipstream. So, yeah, Dahlgren is finding a lot of friends to help him today.
Yep. So with that being said here, as we are under 20 laps to go, what's kind of your game plan now? How are you going to win this race if you're some of these drivers on the track?
Well, now if I'm Clendy, I'm just waiting for Dahlgren to where he will exit, because right now you're in the right position. Clendy, Klemek, Alexander, they're in the right position right now. They just need to know where they'll be, where Dahlgren will exit compared to them. Right now they're doing as best as they can. Stay as close to the lead as you can until the final showdown.
Yep. And so, as this entire group now will try and see where they fare out compared to the 5. 41 flats is the speed. Remember, the personal best is 40.9s here today. Dahlgren had an 8-second pit stop. Where's that going to put Dahlgren as he comes out of the pit lane? Mind you, that's a lap car. That's actually the first wave. This might put the 5 in front. Yeah, he's in front.
A whole second less. That's massive.
A huge gap, and they all gather up behind Dahlgren. And now Jesper Dahlgren up in front of Clendy. It's a Rogue Racing 1-2 coming at 18 to go.
And we saw in Nashville that Clendy can play the team game with his teammates. So it will be very interesting to see for Klemek, Alexander, Hollibaugh how they can counter it.
Yep, you see how the charge is high side. Glendy looking to try and rip the top, try and get the swap draft working. Here's the difficult part. Look at all those lap cars. They're in the mix.
That's going to be a huge factor if these guys want to fight for a win or not, Justin. You need to stay the least amount of time behind these lap cars, and they're run different lanes, so that's not going to be easy.
Yep, right now, you can see the lap cars, at the very least, are being pretty cordial. They're just moving to the inside. They're not fighting it. But the difficult part is for some of these drivers here in the mix is if you move on by, you're kind of conceding the chance of a lead lap finish. But this race has had no cautions. 3 wide with the lap car for a minute. Glendy makes the swap. And now both of the Rogue machines got in front of the lappers who are all in front of the other leaders, still boxed in.
Yeah, Clement got to the lap car at the worst time possible, right at turn 2.
Gap is 1.1, my goodness.
They're nearly out of the draft, Justin. That's bad news.
They got to find a way to go. They are already more than a second behind, lead in the going, coming to 15 to go. The two teammates aren't really fighting at the moment. They're just swapping, trying to maintain momentum. They ran 41.2s or so before. The drivers with the checkup were up as low as the 42-second bracket. So as they all battle amongst themselves, they aren't really working together too well to try and chip this gap away. Right now, down the straightaway though, Seb Alexander is closing it up a little bit. He closed up 1/10. That's it.
And that's not a lot. We see now the gap is back to 1.3 seconds. That's borderline, borderline draft levels. So that's really bad news. That back marker was the worst possible time for that little group behind.
Yep, all this is to say. You can see the rest of the field trying to sort themselves here, but with 14 to go, time's ticking away. Remember, coverage of the IndyCar Open Series Euro SOF races brought to you by Velocity Online Racing for the iRacing IndyCar community. Please consider supporting our fundraiser and donate on GoFundMe. And remember, you can see with some of the various drivers that have supported this series, there's a lot of interest to see what their competitors are doing and wanting to cheer on their fellow teammates. The two teammates are in command, but the gap is now down to 8/10. Alexander is chipping it away pretty quickly.
Yeah, now smooth hands and now faultless driving is needed for Alexander because he needs to get back to these guys before at least 7 or 8 laps to go.
So now, obviously you have to go for those drivers. You have 7 drivers within the range of each other on the draft at the moment. Downside, if you're a Marco Brazil fan, Brazil went from a chance to win this race early to falling well down the order late.
Yeah, that's just sometimes how it goes. I wonder now how hard the track is right now. Probably still in the 40s. Yeah, 41-degree track. I'm wondering if running no wicket would have worked better on a cooler track. Would have. So probably that's what Brazil was betting on.
Yep, so as this goes about with 11 laps to go this time. Now, obviously, fresh tires are going to help here for Dahlgren's case. How much is that going to help on the defense if you're the 5 machine here, the way things are going to help? I know it's a teammate behind, but in all serious question, how big is this run going? Is this going to help with the fresher tires at the back end of this to actually defend, if at all? Because at some moment, somebody's going to have to defend here when Alexander gets there.
Exactly. And to be frank, I don't have the answer to that question, so I'm going to say wait and see. And that will be very interesting to see if they can, those two road cars can make the teamwork work again like they did at Nashville. Oh, those were that was a different driver with Kyle Clanworth.
Yep, so at this point with under 10 laps to go, they're battling again. It's worth noting for fourth on back. Don't know if that's going to help them at all here. They're trying to swap. Not really doing it well, though. Look at that. You have Kirkenbauer again pushing the issue.
Wow, Klemek is dropping down the order fast.
Yeah.
I think they were right behind the top two, and just one lap car has completely screwed them out.
Yeah, and that's the tough thing. Sometimes lap cars can be the make or break of a race like this sometimes. And that's kind of the case.
Yeah, and now these guys, they're fighting for fourth. Like, they're not catching the leaders now.
Yep, so as you can see, the gap ruffling away. What's Alexander's move here to break up these teammates?
Try to build a run. Again, try to get at least down the inside of one of these two guys. Bother them so that you can have a move. But that's easier said than done here, Justin.
Yeah, so challenge is there. Thought process has to be there. Here comes the 5 to the inside on the swap again. Still coming up to 7 laps to go. And for Jesper would be a big win at least to pick up a Euro SOF run. We haven't really seen him too many times this season. Good to see him on the track today, and it's kind of worked out and showing why he's one of the top drivers, you could argue, when it comes to this car on the service when he is on the track at least.
Oh yeah, in VOR he was a menace, and it's almost like he was winning every week. It was kind of like, was kind of tough because you know, like if Jesper was there, like yeah, you're going to play second fiddle. Oh, the free wide was cheeky, Klemek.
At this point, they're no longer racing for the win here. You have to think they're racing for fourth. They're racing to get 25 iRating. If you're the 4, plus 33 if you're Matt Hollyball. If you're in Hollyball, you want iRating. Because yes, the oval rating is now up to the 5,000s, but you want it more. After all, you've contended for an Indy 500 before.
Gotta love iRating.
Don't you know iRating is the end-all, be-all, and if you don't have a 5,000 people look upon you funneling?
Oh yeah, oh absolutely. Like, yeah, people always look at my 2.1 oval rating and they're like, ah, pathetic.
That being said here, the best way to get some of that iRating is to contend in races like this with big ones too. But hey, you'll take an SOF win. Klendy likes the run down the front straightaway, takes it again. 5 laps to go here from Pocono. Alexander hasn't been able to do really much here. It feels like unless something happens drastically here, the Rogue Racing machines have this on lock. They are looking comfortable and swapping at the right spots.
Yeah, Alexander's been hovering around 3/10, 5/10. Yeah, hoping something happens.
Time just ticking away for these drivers. You only have about a couple minutes of racing to go if it stays green. Well, technically speaking, 4 to go. Next flag after this lap could end the race, Sébastien.
Yeah, if there's a caution, yeah, I don't think we're getting that race restarted.
Especially at Pocono, even with the quick yellow racetrack, you need at least 3 laps of caution. You're very likely going to have this be the last chance here to battle for the race to win if there's any trouble. Not jinxing it, But hey, we've seen how heavily they've been battling for 4th position. Dahlgren looking for the run, meanwhile, for the run to 3 to go. And this could be a photo finish if that's a good indication. The swaps are getting right at the line as they are still blocking for 4th.
Very important to note, Cranworth was ahead of Dahlgren at the line, so that's got something to take into account for the final lap. Oh, Alexander! That's game over for him.
Alexander's chances are done. It's now the 2 teammates. Who wants it more? Does Clendy want it, or does Dahlgren want it? Obviously, both will want it, but now you're not just teammates. Your drivers looking to battle for a race win. Motivated to come out on top. 2 laps to go. No swap at the line that time. Clendy has won 1 previous race this season when it comes to this series in officials. Can he get himself another?
A caution! No
Oh
way!
my goodness, this is the race! Dahlgren up in front with the yellow flag waving, coming to the white flag.
You've got to be kidding me.
Jacob Reed, your Euro SOF points leader, has a meatball flag and is decimated. Was running about 9th. Let's see what happened here. And that car already destroyed in progress in the first look. Oh my.
Oh, you gotta be kidding me. That's a hardware failure.
Driving down the straightaway. Did that wheel even turn?
Don't know.
It doesn't even look like he turned. It just went straight left down a straightaway.
Or was it like, I don't know what read is on. Is it a motor failure or a VR failure or something like that?
Something along those lines. That was an interesting way to end this one. And Reed goes from potentially keeping iRating to now being the one in the -122 mark. By the way, that's the caution Alexander Russell might be partly dancing for. He got to 9th at the time of the caution flag.
So like, yeah, Russell was like, yeah, that's 10 laps too late, buddies. Victory formation.
But these 3 are already celebrating on the podium. Russell still says he's not exactly thrilled, but hey, his positive, he only loses 47 iRating, if you think about it that way. That being said, Dahlgren over Clendy and Alexander. They'll take the checker flag this time by. Here we go. This will see Jesper Dahlgren complete a Team 1-2. Rogue Racing gets it done at Pocono. Dahlgren wins at the Tricky Triangle. And Jesper Dahlgren picking up a nice victory here in this one. The 5 machine gets it done here today.
Is he in the Discord?
We are checking because he's been busy. But, hey, you talk about driver, puts up some good results. Mind you, this is already on the oval side, his 31st win on the season. And
damn,
he has already made some runs at Pocono. It should be worth noting that before this, he won a race last night. That was the American top split, believe, at 8 p.m. He basically dominated Pocono when it was the fixed race over the past week. He's won a lot here. He gets it done here.
Bend it down.
So celebration time for Jesper Dahlgren to come out on top here today, here in this one. Jacob Reed confirmed, by the way, the reason for this was a screen freeze.
Ah, that sucks.
Let's take a look at the race results as he draws a perfect circle. Put a circle around Dahlgren. He gets the win today over Klendy after leading 21 laps. Team 1-2 with Alexander in the top 3. Kirkenbauer in 4th. Clement amongst those in your top 5 today. Matt Hollybaugh, Alan Bertel, Brazil, Russell, Kahn amongst those in the top 10.
And to finish the results today here, Justin, we have Charles Como in 11th ahead of Michael Mignac. Bruna Silva finishes 13th in front of Leo Salvador, and Jacob Reed completes the grid.
So in the end, Jesper Dahlgren coming out on top today. If you enjoyed today's action, remember to press that like and subscribe button for helping us in the YouTube algorithm. Because today, if you're a Jesper Dahlgren fan, seen a very fast driver. Jesper is the one who comes out on top here today after a dominating run of races in the fixed races. Gets it done here in this series in the Euro SOF. Did strong last night as well. Jesper, you have a rocket ship of a car. Where's the speed come from for you and Klendy? You're able to get a team 1-2.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know, really. We just nailed it this week. Also, I had, as you mentioned, a few good runs in the fixed series. Pocono seems to be a car where I, excel a little bit. So, yeah, that's all good, I guess.
You guys both stretched the runs over the fuel run here. What was kind of that game plan you and Klendy had that made it to where you guys had the freshest tires in the field to execute?
Yeah, I knew that the overcut was pretty powerful here, especially when you have cars around 4 or 5 seconds behind you pitting. So when they pit, they come out right in front of you on fresh tires, so you can just tow off of them. And well, I didn't expect maybe to come out in the lead and the last stint, but it worked. I was behind. I think it was Jacob Reed I was behind. He was pretty fast on new fresh tires. Yeah, I mean, I usually don't like to get involved early. I just usually just sit back, Rick Mears style a little bit, and just let the race come to me. Usually, seems to be working here this week.
So that being said here, what's kind of the game plan from here on out in this series? Because it's past the halfway point. Your teammates in the conversation for the top 20 in points, and next week is Portland.
Yeah, I'm probably not gonna try and run a full season. I've been quite busy lately. There's a couple of tracks that I do not own, and I don't have a lot of extra time. But when Pocono is around, you make sure that you find that extra time for sure.
Any shout you'd like to give here today?
It's great to see the boys. We got a podium sweep here, so I think that was well deserved. We've been having quite good results lately, so yeah, it's all good. And hopefully Hunter is getting better soon. He's in a bit of a, I think he's in the hospital, but he's coming back soon, I think, and stronger.
Once again, thanks so much for the time.
Thanks.
Jesper Dahlgren coming away with a solid run in this one here today. Sébastien, your thoughts on how things went for some of these drivers here after a wild end?
It kind of went how I kind of predicted, where it would have been very, very calm in the first two stints and heating up in the third stint. Maybe two-third right, because the final stint was still kind of calm, and sadly, I'm kind of sad we didn't have the ending of a titanious fight between our top two tonight. But hey, that's how it goes.
That being said, I'm going to have to get ready to close things down here. But hey, if you enjoyed today, we have plenty of broadcasts coming up on the schedule as well that are important to touch upon when it comes to VOR in the future, because you have things like the Indy Euro Series coming up on the 29th. That's tomorrow. They'll be starting at about 8:30 Central European Summer Time. Then VOR starts off Velocity Online Racing, just the IndyCar now, on August the 1st. They'll be at St. Pete to begin the season once again on Saturday. Sunday, the International IndyCar League goes to Daytona. Oh boy, how will that go? Be sure to tune in for an afternoon race. I'm pretty sure it'd be the road. If it's on the oval, put your bubble wrap on. I've been told in my ear it is the oval. It's chaos. Be sure to enjoy chaos on the 2nd. The Euro Series is at Mugello next week, while the Global IndyCar Challenge is at Zandvoort on the 17th. Again, all that coming up. Remember, part of the European stuff was pushed back for the Euro Series due to the iRacing security situation that happened last week. But on that note, it's time to say goodbye for today's coverage. We'd like to thank you for tuning in for today's coverage on Velocity Online Racing as we get ready to go to Portland next week. That'll be on August the 4th for that coverage. That, once again, will start at approximately the same time each week. Be sure to tune in from the Northwest. On that note, for my colleague in the booth tonight, Sébastien Kinner, for our producer, Julien Altena, who's using onboard cams by Julien Altena, and track cams provided by trackcams22.com. I'm Justin Prince saying so long. Enjoy the rest of your evening. We hope you've been enjoying today's coverage of the IndyCar Open Series and its Euro SOF race. We'll see you next time out from Portland International Raceway as we battle on a road course.